Not too long after the Switch Lite escaped from Nintendo HQ, the above-average-sized den said, you know what, frig it. Let's release a new model for the OG Switch with a better screen and battery life while we're at it. But since they didn't give us much of a heads up or even a release date, people naturally kept buying the old model anyway, which I'm sure was done on purpose. And due to the fact that nobody wants to be in a family with the inferior Switch model, the divorce rate skyrocketed to record highs. Thankfully, though, Nintendo's heart grew 3 sizes, and they're offering free upgrades to any old Switch models bought after July 17th, which is a nice gesture for the poor souls who just bought one. Although, another way to look at it is that this is Nintendo's way of spitting in the face of early Switch adopters, which is actually how a decent amount of people feel. But if you ask my fibromyalgia-ridden keister, I'd wholeheartedly disagree. Keep watching to find out why. Alright, so I'm not saying it wouldn't be cool if Nintendo decided to upgrade everybody's Switch for free, but doing so wouldn't be practical at all, and in fact, it wouldn't even be possible. I mean, just imagine the pandemonium of 30 million people sending their Switches to Nintendo all at the same time. Not only would it cost the above-average-sized den zillions in parts and labor, but it'd also probably take like 37 years for everybody to get their Switches back, which would in turn lose them even more money. Because if people don't have their Switches, then obviously no one's going to be buying any new games. And I don't know about you, but I think it'd be a shame if a game like Astral Chain got left in the dust just because everyone's Switches were in the shop getting their battery life extended by an ass hair. I'm pretty sure most people don't have a problem with Nintendo's offer, but if you want to shove a fire hose up my pole in the comments for defending Nintendo's decision to cater to the late adopters, then first hear me out. Because believe it or not, I actually do understand where you're coming from.
I understand your frustration. Of course.
I could totally see how the early adopters would be peeved at Nintendo for prioritizing people late to the bandwagon. I mean, it'd be like being the first one to show up at an unpopular kid's birthday party, then like halfway through some evil gangbangers show up and get first dibs on the freshly baked horse cake that you're not even allowed to have a bite of unless you give them another present. Hell, if I'm being honest, my initial reaction to late Switch adopters getting a free upgrade was that of vengeance. But when I was at Nintendo HQ with a lighter and a bag of dog doo-doo, I gave it a little bit more thought and changed my tune, cause N-Dog really didn't have to give anybody a free upgrade at all. And if anybody's got a right to be mad at the upgraded release, it's definitely the late adopters. I mean, us early adopters might not have as good a battery life, but we still got to play Mario Odyssey and Cardboard Game a few years before all these new jabronis did. So I can't really say I feel ripped off, especially when I didn't feel duped about the new model in the first place. I did feel a little stupid when I bought an original DS for New Super Mario Bros. Only for a DS Lite to come out a few weeks later, but that was a different kind of upgrade altogether. The new Switch model has a processor that uses less battery, and apparently the screen's a little better too, but other than that, it does everything exactly the same. I mean, whenever I travel, I always bring a power bank with me anyway, so the Switch's battery's never really been an issue for me. So I'm just happy Nintendo's doing anything nice at all to try to balance out all the dick moves they make. I mean, it's really frustrating when they do things like create the Nintendo Creators Program or shut down non-profit fan projects. But sometimes they actually go above and beyond to do some pretty cool things. I mean, they won't release handhelds unless they can survive going through hell, and they actually repaired NESs and Famicoms into the 2000s. And now they're throwing the latest adopters to the Poop Switch model a bone when they really didn't have to do anything at all. Although, there are a few minor strings attached to the deal that are worth mentioning. First off, if your Switch is qualified for an upgrade, then Nintendo's not going to pay for the shipping like how they normally would when your dumbass stepson spills warm lemonade on your Virtual Boy. So you're still going to be paying a little bit extra on top of not being able to play your Switch for a few weeks, and they're not exactly boasting the fact that they're giving the upgrades out at all. It kind of reminds me of the episode of Nathan For You where the gas station was selling gas for like $1, but you had to bring a rebate up a mountain to get the money back. Obviously, this is to a much lesser extent, but I think Nintendo's hoping people either don't know about this goodwill gesture and to make it inconvenient for people who do find out about it. It's actually a tactic similar to one Nintendo used with the top-loader NES. This NES model didn't collect dust, which meant you didn't have to boil the insides every few years. But for reasons nobody will ever understand, they took the AV cables away and only provided an RF switch. And that made games go from looking like this to this. However, if you called customer service and raised enough hell, then Nintendo would mod it for you so you could use AV cables for free. Which was pretty cool in Nintendo to do, but only like 5 people knew about this option to rub their nose in the mess they made. And given how little known this fact is, makes me wonder if the same kind of deal was offered when the Game Boy Advance's SP101 model came out. Now that the internet exists though, it's hard to keep a secret, so I'm sure a few more people are going to take Nintendo up on their offer compared to the past. But the number of people who bought Switches within this 1 month period who even know about this offer is still probably relatively low, even with the internet. And given that you gotta pay money to not be able to play a brand new console for a few weeks just for an extra hour or two of battery life, the amount of people who actually send their Switch in is probably not very high. And I think Nintendo knowing how big of a hassle it'd be was a big part of why they offered the upgrade in the first place. I mean, since most people aren't gonna call their bluff, it's pretty easy PR for not that much work. But that's really me just playing devil's advocate and trying to see both sides, because at the end of the day, it's a lot better that they're offering the upgrade than nothing. And given that it's impossible to upgrade 30 million Switches, the only alternative would be to not get a new Switch at all. Either way, early adopters are still stuck with the original model anyway, so why not just let people enjoy the upgrade? Especially when the OG model's not really missing out on much anyway. So anyway you slice it, Nintendo coming out with a new Switch model and upgrading any of the old ones at all is still a great thing for them to do for everybody involved. Well, except for the suckers who bought a Switch on July 16th anyway. Haha. But anyway, what do you think about Nintendo upgrading Switches bought after July 17th? Are you an early adopter who feels underappreciated? Do you think it's nice of them to do? Or do you feel bad for the people who just barely missed the window? Either way, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll try my goddamnedest to respond to everybody. But if you really want the best possible Switch model, then you should have it made for you by today's patrons of the day, Dojin Shinji and Melanie G. If you want to be badasses like these two, then consider supporting FU Game Crew on Patreon for loot boxes in the mail and other wacky rewards. And if you want to make a cameo, then send pictures or videos of you rocking any FU Game Crew merch like these legendary human beings you see before you. As always, like and share this video anywhere on the internet to help this channel grow. And if you want to prove that you're not down with registered sex offenders, then go ahead and press the subscribe button if you haven't already. My name's Cameron, all one word, and I'll be back with more videos soon.
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty, thank you for your support.